such a gorgeous color.
Yeah. Well,
Uh,
we're recording right now, so
okay.
do you want me to do an intro, or do you want to do the intro, or?
No, I like your interest. It makes me feel special.
Okay. Well, I'm doing a special introduction for my big brother Bill, and is part two, a continuation of a discussion we were having about the Jaguar XKE, that has been part of this family for 53 years.
That's
And so this is part two. It's where I left off. Bill has not yet moved the Jaguar, aka Ginger, down to California yet. The date is 5/19/2022. Bill, can you add anything more to that, or?
no, I think you did it very well. Does it matter if it's around 2:30?
Uh, 2:30. No, yeah, we're going to go for a half hour. Is that okay? A half hour, and
Sure.
then
Half hour sounds good.
okay, and then I'll take off for the recycling center.
Okay.
And
So
you're on.
now my turn. Well, um, Stan, you're quite right. Uh, my phase of it is where I had noticed the Jaguar uh, covered in a canvas or some plastic in the front yard of Mom and Dad's house on Fox Hollow, and and we negotiated the price. I think we're kind of backing up here a little bit as to what's already been covered. But my attempt then to get it down to California, I was living in San Jose, California at that time, and had a place, a big garage that could easily handle Ginger's petite size. Ginger is also known as a name for the XKE. If you're talking to a guy, probably one would say an XKE. Hopefully, every guy knows what an XKE is, I suppose. But Ginger is a little more more descriptive. Ginger is perhaps sort of related to a sort of a feminine name, I guess you would say. And from the first time I saw that XKE, if you assigned a gender to an inanimate object, I think the gender would be definitely feminine. Uh, so I'll use Ginger or XKE interchangeably as I talk here.
And and Bill, this
Mhm.
is just for clarification. Is
Um,
Ginger is a real character, or who is Ginger? Or
well, the genesis of the name Ginger was uh, with Patty, and uh, Ginger was familiar with both the 1937 Ford and the 64 XKE. She also was familiar with the fact that I'm a bit of a nutcase when it comes to the old Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies.
oh yeah.
And so if one's imagination was allowed to run riot, uh, there's a saying that I don't know how true it is, but a description of Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers as a movie team, that Ginger Rogers brought sex to the partnership, and that Fred Astaire brought class
Uh-huh.
to the partnership. And so there's something of a parallel with the cars. Ginger is the shape, the shape of Ginger is very. I'd say it's I don't think it'd be an exaggeration, in my opinion, to say that Ginger's one of the sexiest looking cars. just it's long and sleek and smooth lines and all that sort of thing. A Ginger to me is the antithesis of masculinity. It's the car is very feminine. Uh, Whereas the 1937 Ford is uh, not sleek. It's the lines are smooth, I suppose, but certainly not sleek. And the car has white wall tires. And Fred Astaire was typically in a tuxedo with and sometimes spats being, for those people who don't know, sort of a little covering that went over one's shoes, and they would be white, black shoes with a white spats. And so that's a little bit of a parallel with Fred Astaire's attire. Thus, Patty, who was good at, I guess maybe it's the imagination, I suppose, is what it was to pair my interest in Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers with the Jaguar and the 1937 Ford.
Hmm.
So that's where Ginger came from, and that's where Fred came from. Interestingly enough, uh, uh, um, Patty was the voice of Ginger. Patty established some of the characteristics of Ginger, and for the most part wasn't very complimentary, I would say. Um, uh, Ginger's voice was sort of a Southern belle, an over-the-top Southern belle accent, and she was very egocentric. She was probably approaching being a narcissist, perhaps, and looked down her long nose at especially Corvettes. And her theory was that Corvettes were owned by retired dentists, which, from Ginger's standpoint, was really a remarkable insult to Corvettes.
Uh-huh.
And well, oddly enough, though, Ginger would often express opinions, mostly sarcastic or certainly negative, about other cars, and
Uh-huh.
so that was part of her personality. Oddly enough, at the time, I didn't do the same kind of thing speaking for Fred. I have to think about what Fred's voice would be like and his attitude toward, say, other cars, perhaps. So there wasn't a matching whimsical approach to the 37 Ford.
Uh-huh.
Um, so getting to the trip. So I'll break into the further adventures of Ginger with my attempt to get Ginger on a trailer, so it wasn't running. And is that true, Stan? I don't think Ginger was running at the time. We
No,
tried starting it. The battery needed to be replaced.
I
Something
think
like
yes.
that.
I think it was the battery was
Yeah,
dead. Yeah.
yeah. That's the way I remember it. So trailer it down to San Jose was what I needed to do. Well, I tried bringing a trailer up, as I recall, and if I get this wrong in any way that you can think of, Stan, please jump in.
Mm-hmm.
I think I brought a car trailer, up from California, pulling it with my 37 Ford, with Fred. And we ganged up on it and loaded Ginger up on the trailer, and I tried moving away down south with her on the trailer, and it just didn't work for some reason. I couldn't really safely pull the car at anything like freeway speeds, and so I came back and made arrangements later to have Margaret's husband, who had a pickup truck, take a trailer, and I don't know where that trailer came from at the moment. Um, it's but and take that trailer and down to San Francisco to San Jose, and that worked well. The pickup truck could easily tow Ginger on that trailer, and we safely got it down. It's a very kind thing that he did. I appreciate it to this day that he did that. Um, Rolled Ginger into what was then a two-car garage. Originally, it had been a carriage house where the house was fairly old, two-story house in San Jose, and it had a carriage house, and they kept horses in it, and I presume actually carriage. I wish I had some pictures of that. That would be so neat. But that's where I put Ginger into that, and unfortunately, there she sat, um, neglected by me. And it wasn't until uh, Patty came along and urged me to do something about restoring Ginger that that getting permission, in a sense, to do that uh, encouraged me to do something I really wanted to do for a very long time. So we ended up looking for uh, a restoration shop and found one not terribly far away from where the house was. And I looked for colors for what color to paint her. The finish on the car would be needed to be repainted. The nose of the car had been damaged and restored somewhat anyway, but the car really needed to be repaired or repainted. So so found the shop, found some colors that I liked, and it was a burgundy color that was actually for a later than 1964 Jaguar. So it's a Jaguar color, but of later years than 64. Um, Talked to the people at the shop about what I wanted done, and came to an understanding. And I don't know how Ginger got to that repair shop now, whether they came and got her or whether I trailered her there somehow. Probably they came and got her, or I just hired a tow truck um, to take her there. And she was there for weeks. The restoration took a long time, but on the other hand, I can't say that I was in any particular big rush for this. Um, the colors, they stripped down the paint and reprimed her, took care of any dings. There weren't any serious dings. There was one area that was rusted out. It would be, if you were sitting in the car, that area would be about where your left foot would be, but exterior, and had rusted through. And I think it was because of the batteries located very close to that place, and there was a little bit of a rusted out spot there. They repaired that, and that was probably the worst of the repair jobs. It was that. It's amazing, as old as Ginger was at the time, that it was that good a shape. Uh,
Do you recall about what year you started restoration, Bill?
I've been trying to remember, and unfortunately right now I don't. I may have to do a little bit of historical research to get it down to within a couple of years of when that was. And I'll try to put that somewhere. I have some pictures going into the family library of pre-restoration and then post-restoration of Ginger, and Stan also has some beautiful pictures of the post restoration. But I'll try to put the date in there. There's a home for where that date could go, and we'll take care of it that way. I think that's the only thing I can think of at the moment. Um, I I go by every now and then to see how things were going. Not that I was exactly impatient. I was just wildly curious. And somewhere or other, I have a bunch of pictures of that process and how that went. And I'd love to be able to put it into the family page, my family library page, but I haven't been able to find the darn thing. So at least not yet.
Uh,
So
Bill, I think, just as an aside, I think you sent me, well, I know you sent me some pictures of the restoration process, so I'm going to scan those in for you and send those down to you.
that'd
So,
be great. That would be great. I have simply not been able to find them. I found a lot of pictures, but unfortunately,
oh, okay.
that haven't. I'd appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so after several weeks, it wasn't a matter of a couple of days. This took weeks to accomplish at this shop, and I was really quite satisfied with the results of it.
Yeah.
No, no serious complaints. Following that came the restoration, all painted and all that kind of stuff. And she was at that point quite drivable. And Stan, I think I started out wrong with this for some reason. What I should have talked about was actually more the machinery restoration. I took it to a mechanic who did a little bit of work on the engine. Uh, of nothing serious, oddly enough, surprisingly enough. It's a straight six double overhead cam, 3.8, I think it is, liter engine. By the way, 3.8 liters is I think 1 gallon, I think, if in volume.
Hmm.
But it sounds really neat to say 3.8 and and it's a 1 gallon displace, but that's the way.
Yeah, I've always wondered if you had any engine work done, and you said very little. You said.
Very little. I don't. I remember a lot more about the appearance part,
Mm-hmm.
about the painting, the rusted through part there on the left hand side, near the battery, of the upholstery. Um, the top. Getting the canvas, a new canvas top. The old canvas top had uh, then was very fragile at the time. You could poke a finger through it, I think, if you pushed hard enough. So a new top was put on, and but the mechanical work was not extensive, as it turns out, and the folks did a really quite a good job. The the double overhead cam part of the engine has two aluminum covers over a molded cast aluminum that were polished, and boy, when those things were all put together,
Hmm.
it was just gorgeous. And uh, and so once the restoration of or the repair, I guess it would be, of the engine and some of the bright work on it, everything was checked out. Radiator didn't leak. Uh, she ran well, and I drove her home. And boy, was that a thrill
I bet.
to
Hmm.
to uh, drive her home. Um, I guess the next thing was the
And Bill, where was home at
yes,
that time?
home was on Martin, that two-story home in San Jose on
Oh yeah,
Martin Avenue
that
was
giant
where that
that
was.
that
A
giant
huge
house.
house.
Yeah.
It is a huge house, and so that's where she originally was parked. And when I first brought her down from Oregon. And I think for some reason I'm tangling up the order of these things, like the paint work. the engine work, the upholstery, and the top. And I may not have the right sequence for this. In a way, it doesn't probably really matter. They all happen one at a time, and all got done. But it was a fun project. I'm so glad that I got encouraged to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I needed that boost, as it turns out. I don't remember now how much it cost. Oh, I kind of remember how much. And part of the planning was to say, what's a reasonable price to be willing to pay? At what point did it starts to get stupid? And I had paid, after hard negotiations with Stan, it turned out to be $1,800, and that was the price that Stan, I think you said you paid originally.
Yeah. Hmm.
So I generously offered to pay. He could recover his investment there, and so I took the $1,800 and figured that looked up what Jaguars were going for at the time, and thought that I could afford. I think it was on the order of $15,000 to do the restoration. And so got some estimates of what these things would take, and it looks like we could do all the stuff I just described, the body work and the engine work and the upholstery and the top. And it turned out that got within reasonable accuracy. It turned out to be how much I spent. So probably I had something like $17,000, let's say, roughly,
Hmm.
in that whole effort. And it was probably some of the best $17,000 I ever spent in my life, as it turns out. I don't have a penny's worth of regret for that.
Hmm.
It was good in so many different ways. Uh, let's see. So found a upholstery place that was actually somewhat out of San Jose. Um, oh, here's yeah, Lance coming home. Talking to Stan, honey.
Okay.
Um, uh, it was somewhat out of. I think it was very close to Niles, California, and of course you might instantly recognize that Niles.
Yeah.
Niles, you got a hi from Leanne.
Yeah.
Stan.
Hi, Leanne.
Yeah, yeah. She's going to go. I think go have lunch with her daughter. I think. Um, Gosh, where was I?
Upholstery work.
Upholstery. It was near Niles. I think it was near a town called Niles, California. And the reason that sounds familiar to you is that that's where some of the early Charlie Chaplin movies were
Oh.
made.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a strange little town. There's a railroad track that runs along one side of the main street, and then a bunch of touristy sort of shops on the other side of the
Hmm.
street. Fascinating place, and it's totally incidental to the what happened with Ginger. The upholstery shop. Then I left Ginger, drove Ginger there, and the upholstery shop did a fine job with that with the work that they did. We tried to get as close to the original, and it could have been done probably more meticulously. There could have been more research and have it be authentic, and didn't do that. But I liked the way it looked,
Hmm.
as it turned out. And I think the top was purchased complete. It wasn't made. It was just bought and put on. And I'm not sure whether the upholstery shop did that or whether somebody else did. But that was that. Then at that point, it was completed. From then on, Ginger was my commuter car. I was working for Lockheed, and I drove daily on back and forth. Some people talk about the fact that the XAs are not reliable. I would not claim that at all. I think I had one problem where I had to get towed home but that was after years of commuting virtually every day. So
Hmm.
heck, that's not bad at all,
Yeah.
uh, as it turns out. Parked Ginger in the there's a huge parking lot at Lockheed. They and I parked it kind of on the perimeter of the where people were parking. It didn't fill up the parking lot. There's a lot of empty space in there. So I parked on the perimeter and had a car cover for it, which I used faithfully. I don't. I'd like to think that there would be very few people at Lockheed that would vandalize anything. And as far as I know, there's nothing bad ever happened with her out there. The closest I can come to it, vandalism, was sort of a verbal. Was Ginger being sensitive. Um, there was a lot of wind in that part of the world. And one time the car cover got blown off, but was caught on the radio antenna. And so it didn't go anywhere, but it was off the car. And there was a public announcement saying that there was a purple car out in the parking lot
A purple car.
that
Yeah.
had, and I've never had the courage to tell Ginger about that announcement. Uh, I don't know that I'll ever be able to do it, but anyway, this purple car had a problem with the car cover, and so so I went out and readjusted it. And for only time it never got blown off. I don't know why that time
Oh.
that it happened. Maybe the wind was extra strong or something like that.
And Bill, we have about 4 more minutes is all.
Okay, well, actually, this is kind of getting to the point where this is a good point to say. Besides commuting to work and back, um, never really went on any long trips. Drove to Napa Valley one time, and which was probably the longest distance trip that I ever took. I don't know, 50 miles, 60 miles to and fro, perhaps, uh, on a rather warm summer day. And ended up, I think I was wearing shorts and ended up with my legs sunburned.
Oh no.
Sad to say. Of course, the top was down. I drove her mostly with the top down. The what's the point of having a roadster if you don't if you have the top up? Uh, yeah, San Jose got its share of rain, but for the most part, you couldn't ask for a better climate for a road for a convertible, a roadster, would be the San Jose weather. I
Oh
love the
yeah.
San Jose weather, probably best of any place I've ever lived.
Hmm.
And Ginger contributed to it because she was such a show-off kind of a car, I would say, and having the top up, I had to scrunch down because my head would touch the poke up on the soft top,
Hmm.
and it's just too tall. And Stan, I bet you'd have a worse problem because you're a few inches taller than I am.
Yeah.
Uh, what else do we have? Getting Ginger back to Oregon. Um, when uh, when I stopped working at Lockheed and retired, there was moving household goods up to Oregon, and Ginger, being one of the largest items, got a trailer that that I pulled behind a U-Haul truck. See, is that true? Is that true? No, that's not true. Bruce came and got Ginger and towed her back to their house, and there was, and we, she stayed in. Bruce had some outbuildings, and Ginger was protected in those outbuildings, one of those outbuildings, for a time until she was moved to to Sumter, and we had a two-car garage in Sumter where she occupied half the garage. Um, and that is pretty much it until I moved away from Sumter and had to clean out that area. And Ginger was trailered, I think again by Bruce, I think, to Michael's house. And the only problem there was turning at the end of his dead-end street, and turning that long pickup truck that Bruce had around with the trailer. Um, and that was a good trick to make that a rather sharp corner. Have you used that turn at the end of your street?
So you meant me instead of Michael? You said you towed it to
Did I say
Michael's.
Michael? I'm sorry. Yes, you. Yeah,
Uh, have I used that turnaround? No, I haven't used it in
yeah,
eons.
yeah, yeah. That was hard with that long
Oh
trailer
yes, absolutely.
and
Yeah,
and the pickup truck. But we ended up getting Ginger parked there,
you did.
home there in a safe
Yeah.
home,
hmm
and now even safer home because Stan was so kind as to build a garage just for Ginger, and that she feels very good about that. That's rather prestigious, I think I
Yeah,
have to say.
yeah. She has her
So
own
that
little garage. Yeah.
own little garage there, and that's the story.
Okay. Wonderful. Do you want to end the tape here, Bill, or?
Yeah, I think this is probably a good place to end it. I think we're out of time, and and so yeah, I'm, I'm glad we let me look at it my notes, see if I can see anything else. No, covered it pretty well. Um, yeah, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, I'll end the tape here then, and and
Okay.
then the next one we'll have part three of where Ginger leaves Oregon and comes up to Washington State.
Yes, yep, and maybe a little bit about what the building the garage and so
Oh,
forth.
sure. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll end it here then.
All righty.